All right, we're now here for our closing plenary session. I couldn't be more excited as past district polio chair to have this closing session, but I do want to remind you this is not the end of today's program. So after our plenary speaker finishes, please don't leave. We have some really important awards that we're going to give, and so we do have a little bit more to do after Mike finishes. I am so excited. District Governor Rich asked me to come up with the best polio speaker that I could think of. Is everybody hearing me okay? All right. District Governor Rich asked me to come up with the best polio speaker that I could think of for World Polio Day. And so who did I think of? I'd get the guy in charge of PolioPlus for the world. So we are very fortunate to have Mike McGovern, the chair of PolioPlus, speaking to us today. Mike is doing 8 events today around the world. That's the good thing about Zoom. Mike McGovern has served as the chair of Rotary International's PolioPlus Committee since October 2014. In this role, he is the volunteer leader of Rotary's largest humanitarian project, the Global Eradication of Polio. Rotary is spearheading as this partner of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative and has donated over $2 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars to ending polio, and has worked with our other partners to reduce the number of polio endemic countries from 125 in 1988 when we started our efforts to 2 today, Afghanistan and Pakistan. Mike also represents Rotary in the Polio Oversight Board. Mike joined Rotary in 1986 as a member of the Rotary Club of South Portland, Cape Elizabeth, Maine in the United States. He served as club president, district governor, district foundation chair, council on legislation delegate, Rotarian Action Group chair, Rotarian Leadership Institute division chair, international training leader, Institute convener, RI committee member and chair, trustee and vice chair of the Rotary Foundation, and as a director and vice president of Rotary International. He began serving as the global chair of Rotary Leadership Institute in July of this past year. Mike has served his entire career with the town of Cape Elizabeth, Maine, beginning as an intern in 1977 and serving as town manager from 1985 to 2016. During his career, he also led several boards, including the Maine Municipal Association, the Maine Town and City Management Association, and EcoMaine, and served on committees of the International City and County Management Association. He currently serves on the board of Park Danforth, a nonprofit retirement community, and is chair of the Diocesan Review Board in the Roman Catholic Diocese of Portland. Please join me in a warm District 6970 welcome for PolioPlus Chair Mike McGovern.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you, Governor Rich, for inviting me. I don't know if you got the best polio speaker in the world, but I'm somewhat knowledgeable on Rotary's activities with polio, and we have just so many people that are passionate and great Rotary speakers. It makes my position quite a bit easier. Anyway, when I was asked to speak by Jeff, I was asked to look at where we've come from, where we are, and where we're going. And I'll try to honor that as much as possible. Like anything that goes on for a long time, you have, wonderful achievements that, we collectively have done. There's a few setbacks along the way, and, but eventually you work together and you get it done. And, that's what I know every Rotarian in the world wants to see. They want to see this done, particularly, when you look at your topics for today of vibrant clubs. Sometimes with polio, particularly, here in the United States, you're part of Florida, not everyone relates to polio. Surprisingly, there's a lot who do, thankfully. But, it's not because we have current cases in our part of the world. Our goal is to eradicate polio. That's what we've been focused on. that's what we're going to do. So, I very much want to get this from the beginning. So today is World Polio Day. The reason it's World Polio Day is that it's the 106th, if I have my math right, anniversary of the birthday of Jonas Salk. Jonas Salk, of course, was the guy 65 years ago who came up with the original polio vaccine that just gave hopes to so many. And, it's being celebrated around the world. This was a photograph taken yesterday in Lahore in Pakistan. And the gentleman with the yellow polio shirt in the middle, that's the district governor. This was a few hours ago in Afghanistan, in a place called Jalalabad. And they had an event there for a lot of the polio workers, some government officials. It was one of several events that, I've seen that I've gotten photographs of today. This is on the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan. And, if you've read any history of that region, it's not a very safe area. It's a tough area. The man putting the marker on the kid's pinky, as they refer to them as, is the governor of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And, it's a tough area. I always get nervous when Rotarians visit there. We had Rotarians visited this community this morning from both Pakistan and Afghanistan. This was last night in Abu Dhabi, in the United Arab Emirates. There's actually 4 or 5 buildings that have been lit there overnight. The government there in the UAE is very generous to polio eradication, and they want to promote within country how important it is to them. This is actually a Formula One building of some type. So, that was wonderful to see. Earlier today, I spoke to a group in Bangladesh. And this is actually this morning in Bangladesh. You can see a bunch of Rotarians with new t-shirts when walking on the streets for a polio awareness walk. Bangladesh is fascinating. Here in the United States, we tend to think of it as a place that floods and, the teeming populations. They actually have one of the best records in the world. They haven't had their own polio case for over 20 years. And they also have one of the best records in the world for routine immunizations. And it's, I was proud to be able to thank them on behalf of Rotary for the great work that they're doing. Early today, I was on this call. This was folks in Pennsylvania, and they were having an event there. And this is typical. So I really want to thank your district 6970 for having an event. This is not a very good photograph, and some of you are really good at photographs. And this was one I took, and if I had known I was going to use it, I would have taken more time to frame it. But why I have this photo? This is a laboratory in Madagori in Borno in Nigeria. And it was in this very room that they identified the very last case of wild polio virus in Africa. When I was in the room, I felt as though I was at, sort of a holy place. To think that the virus had been present in the room, but also to think that possibly the virus that was in this room at the time, I was hoping it would be the last one, and thankfully it was. It's actually this facility, the laboratory, is named for a Rotarian from Oregon. Got a gentleman by the name of Larry Hewitt, and it was wonderful to see. This was sort of across the driveway from the laboratory, and they arranged for me to meet with some of our community-based vaccinators. These are the people that the polio donations are used for, that are with polio donations, that are paid small stipends to actually deliver the 2 drops into the mouth. A lot of Rotarians have the impression that the drops are delivered by Rotarians. But the reality is that less than 1% is. Most of the polio drops are delivered by men and women like this. In this case, if you look at the picture closely, all of these individuals are polio survivors. These are individuals that we hire, give stipends to. to actually deliver the vaccines. And, I stayed at a place not far from there. And when I was going to this place, we had a meeting first with some government officials, health people. And these folks, as I was being driven there, I saw these people coming to this site. They came on these tricycles. Some of them were crawlers, people that had old crutches or just were crawling on the ground. And, others had wheelchairs. Some of them were dropped off by other folks. But, it's just, when I think of their devotion and their activity, the woman in the wheelchair on the right, she wanted Rotary to buy new tricycles for, which you see the men on the picture for. That's what they used to get around. It's what they get around to deliver the vials of vaccines. And, I looked at our polio chair from Nigeria, who was there with me when they asked the question. And, they wanted to know if we'd buy them and deliver them and whatever. And, there's only one answer in Rotary, and that's yes. But I was able to say yes because, one, the local Rotarians in Nigeria were willing to do the logistics, and two, because we do have some monies available for PolioPlus partners grants, and I was able, their standing, didn't need the trustee chair's approval to actually say yes. But that yes happened because you folks donate. This is where these individuals work. This is a camp for internally displaced people. These were people who escaped Boko Haram, which actually was founded in this community. 60,000 people live in this particular camp in these straw huts. And, to think it's those polio workers you just saw, they're going down these alleyways. They're the ones that are delivering the polio drops. And, they do it day in and day out. The day it was 2017, actually, August 25th. The man in the middle, he was the deputy governor. And if you look over my shoulder, you see a man there in a green military type outfit. He was one of 17 people that was holding assault weapons to protect us. And the deputy governor told me on the way out, I was in his vehicle, and they, by the way, they were his security, they weren't ours. Told us on the way out that the reason security was so heavy, there'd been a suicide bomber the day before that had killed 3 people at the entrance to this camp. So, we were there, we went over there, one, to see it, and I never thought I'd visit a place like this, but also to dedicate a well that was installed by the Nigeria National PolioPlus Committee with Rotary PolioPlus dollars. And, they were very appreciative of that. And this is another one we did in Abuja. This is, I don't like calling other people the slums, but it's the term that they use. This was a tough community just outside the city. And again, we dedicated the well. The man in the black is Tunji Funcho. Tunji is our Nigerian PolioPlus chair, the man that said yes to the tricycles. And he was also, a couple of weeks ago, named by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. And that's because of his work with the recent certification of Africa as polio free. And, he didn't like the water. You could tell the look on his face. I was kind of, taken back by the whole thing because, even though it was purified, the aquifer is still, from their sources. And, you learn when you go to a place like Nigeria, always drink bottled water. But nonetheless, the little boy there, the son of the village chief there, he said, "Big white guy, you have to drink the water." So anyway, I drank it and I survived. But you just look at the happy faces. And some of you may look at this picture and wonder where the women are. There are a couple of women in the picture. One works, Carol Pandak, for Rotary, the other for WHO. But the tradition in this village is the women stand in one place, the men stand in the other. But it was just an amazing experience. And, so thankful that Rotary can do these things and help out. This is Afghanistan. This is World Polio Day, I think 2 years ago. I wasn't there, but our chair there took the picture. And this was training again. These are the folks that deliver the vaccines. It's so important in these places that we have community-based people, that we have individuals who are known to their neighbors and, that they can trust. And again, we pay them small stipends. But it's not easy. Every place we work in Pakistan and Afghanistan, there's a gentleman like the one in the back who accompanies them. They're paid for by the government. In Pakistan, they're affiliated with the military, it's very important that the workers are safeguarded, and it's all about the little boy in the front getting the drops in the ground. So what about Rotary? In the introduction, Jeff mentioned, Rotarians have contributed over 1.1 billion to the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. And you got to look, this is since 1985. So, we're talking, 35 years, we're talking 36,000 clubs. So, every bit that you give makes a difference, even though these are big numbers. And, and it's sustaining this commitment. It's getting it done. My own Rotary Club has cans on the table when we meet in person. Now we call them virtual cans, and people put their spare change into them. And, eventually it adds up, and it adds up to hopefully a goal of 50 million a year. And, the Gates Foundation's matching it again this year. They're matching it for another 2 years. The Gates Foundation, because of that match, has now given Rotary $980 million. It's about to go up. And that's we're in a 3-year agreement right now that they will continue to match 2 for 1 every dollar that we contribute as Rotarians, raise through our communities around the world. Rotary, we talk about our own money, but we were also the group that brought the Gates Foundation into polio eradication. It was through Bill Gates Sr., Bill Gates' father. And the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is now the #1 giver to polio eradication. It's over $4 billion. So, they give 100 million a year to Rotary if we raise 50 million, but they also, they're spending another 300 million every year on their own investing in polio eradication. It's also Rotarians who go to the governments of the world and ask them to support it. The first one was Canada. The US government is actually the second largest contributor to polio eradication, with Rotary being the third. We receive money from many different countries: United Kingdom, Japan, Australia, and I mentioned earlier the United Arab Emirates. This is all about together. Together, everyone working together. We're going to end polio, and our goal, to the very end, is the global certification of polio eradication. So, what have we accomplished with all this? What's our impact? Money is good to talk about, but people want to know, what do we get for the money? Where is it spent? 19 million people are walking on this earth who otherwise would be no longer with us or would be paralyzed if Rotary hadn't had the courage or the audacity to start this program back in the Philippines and continuing on to today. 19 million children. So even though I get a little discouraged some days when the cases are a little bit up, this statistic sustains me, and I hope it sustains you. Just the logistics, 3 billion people, children under the age of 5, 3 billion have received the oral polio vaccine. Last year alone, over 1 billion doses. But that's 430 million children, because kids get more than one dose. Just amazing in my view, what the partnership accomplishes. We've gone 4 years without a case. We had a case with that little girl in Nigeria 4 years ago. Pakistan and Afghanistan, the only places we have cases, 132 so far this year. And it's interesting, compared to a year ago, and with COVID and everything else, the cases in Pakistan are only up 1 case from a year ago. But unfortunately, in Afghanistan, they've gone from 18 to 50 something. And, that's a concern, and I'll touch on that a little bit of why that happens. We've helped with COVID. We had to suspend activities for a while with COVID. When I say activities, we suspended house to house, and we wanted to make sure we weren't spreading the coronavirus. And that was worldwide. We thought there was a moral imperative. We also felt there was a moral imperative to help with COVID. And for that reason, our surveillance, where we usually identify polio cases, instead was converted to helping with COVID. That included contact tracing. It included training on the need for masks and social distancing and all the things we hear about, in our own country. And over 4,000 WHO, World Health Organization, polio workers were converted for a while to COVID support, our laboratories, the testing, all of that. And it cost for, estimated through December of $60 million. The good news is that's expected to be reimbursed But in the meantime, we have the framework, we have the network to respond to these public health emergencies, particularly in Africa. So, we ought to be proud of what we did with Ebola, what we did with COVID, and, our contribution going forward. This slide here, in one respect, it's sad, but in one respect, I show it because it's good news. These, the wild polio virus is declared certified free by regions of the World Health Organization. And all but one region has been certified as polio free, the Eastern Mediterranean region, which obviously includes Pakistan and Afghanistan. And, you look at these photos, India, it was 10 years ago, January now, seems like yesterday. The last polio case in India, Rushdi is her name. I actually met her in Calcutta a few years ago, and just a delightful young girl. She's now 12 or 13 years old. The woman and the young girl, the pretty face, Yafana Ali, the last case of wild polio in Africa. You just, you look at that smile. By all indications, she's doing fine. And but you think of all of the other children who haven't gotten the wild polio virus after her. It's just amazing. Even since the COVID, the resumption of house to house in Africa, since COVID, we've already immunized 35 million children who won't get polio, shouldn't get polio, after Yafana Ali. The other one I want to mention is the Americas. This is a little boy, Luis Furman, 1991, a lot of years ago now. Note the man next to him. That was the very first region certified as polio free. And Luis, this is him in 2018, in front of the umbrella. And what's interesting, the man that he's looking at is the man that was in the previous picture. And this was their first reunion since 1991. And you see, Luis is still, dealing with some of the impacts of polio, but basically he's happy, he's contributing to society, and it's good that, well, there's no cure for polio. It's nice that with therapies and other things that people can live a fairly normal life. So, the monies that Rotarians gave, how were they used? A lot of it is getting vaccines to children. That's the, the delivery system that, we over 1 million people we gave stipends to last year who actually delivered the vaccine. It pays for the coolers, the refrigerators, the rent-a-cars, the boats, all of those things that are the delivery system. We also have what we call social mobilization, which is raising awareness. That's social media, it's radio ads, it's billboards, it's little trinkets. It's all of those things. And it's so important, particularly with vaccine hesitancy, to let people know that the immunization days are coming and to get their kids vaccinated. We spend 14% on identifying polio cases. That includes providing for local health offices, health centers in many, particularly African countries, and having people go to those, taking stool samples and sending them to laboratories that we fund. And we're also funding vaccines. A few years ago, we weren't really funding that much in vaccines. Other people were doing it, but we're now doing that again. Just last week, thanks to your generosity, the trustees approved $50 million in grants that are going to the World Health Organization and UNICEF. And you can see the first 3 lines. We're making sure in Africa that we sustain the polio-free world that we have there. It's you got to make sure that that it's certified, but you got to keep up the surveillance. You got to continue. People still need to get their vaccinations, and we also encourage other routine immunizations. We're spending most of our money in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Eastern Mediterranean region includes those again. And again, operational support. Those are the NIDs. But again, the national immunization days, those are mostly done with stipends being paid for to local community people. We've had an outbreak of vaccine derived, and that isn't from people who get the vaccine don't get that, but the ones who get the circulating vaccine derived polio are ones that have very low immune systems because they don't get any of the routine immunizations. And the ones who get the vaccine, they secrete it, it mutates, and unfortunately that happens. Fortunately, as a result of research, There's a new vaccine expected to be approved very, very soon, before the end of the year. It's been under development 10 years. The clinical trials have all been good. That's supposed to take care of the problem. We're also, that 12 million you see there, that's vaccines. And we're funding research still. This is the first of 3 grants, series of grants that will be done this year. There's another 100 million still to come. And it's done 3 times during the year. The woman on the left, that was in the Philippines. They actually had one of those vaccine-derived outbreaks there last year. The government stopped it in January. And you can see the Rotarians there from, were very committed to helping. So what do we need to do? What do we need to do to finish the job? You know, we need to advocate to the governments of the world. And Rotary does this in Washington. We do it in London. We do it in the European community. We have Rotarians in Canada, Japan, Australia, so many places, Switzerland, who meet with government leaders and encourage them to give grants. And you saw some of those earlier. We also advocate to governments where there is polio, where there's vaccine-derived outbreak, or high priority countries. We have very active Rotarians, for example, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, who are intimately involved in working with the government on that. This particular photo was taken in February, and this was at the home of Imran Khan, the man on the left. He is the Prime Minister of Pakistan. The man on the right is Holger Kanak, the current president of Rotary. Holger went to Pakistan, again, the first week of February, with Ravi Ravindran, who's the chair of the Rotary Foundation. I was there as well, and Aziz Memon, our volunteer chair in Pakistan, a trustee now of the foundation, and we met with the Prime Minister, and he gave us his unwavering commitment. It was actually the second time I'd gone to his home to meet with him, once when he was in opposition, and basically he said the cases went up in Pakistan last year because, I think these were his exact words, I screwed up. And to hear a government leader say that was, one, encouraging, but two, he did come in, and there was a transitional issue. He brought in some people who weren't up to the task, and he said, I got to fix this. I screwed up. I'm going to fix it. And we could see the signs it was being fixed. We also met with the Army general, who was a big important person in that country, and they handled not only security but a lot of the logistics of the polio program. And he was out vaccinating kids, giving the oral polio vaccine 2 weeks ago, and he said he believes that they'll be able to have the last polio case in Pakistan in 2021. I don't know if he's right, but I look at India, for example. There were 700 and something cases in 2 years before the end of polio. 1 year before, there were 42 cases. The last year, there was 1 case. And you look at that, it is doable once you really get people behind you. So we got to have that advocacy. We've got to continue to raise the money. The Gates match is still in place. We need to stop these so-called vaccine-derived cases. There's over 500 of them this year, which are all over the Central Africa. I just read about some cases this morning in Myanmar, and that costs money. That's why we're still investing in vaccines, is to take care of these outbreaks. But most of all, we need, people say, what more than anything else is going to get this done? We need to convince the parents. We need to convince leaders, both ones we politically might agree with and those that we don't, of the importance of vaccination. I mentioned about leaders. One of the groups we need to bring along is the Taliban. They believe in vaccines, but you know what? There's some lingering concern with, the vaccinator, not polio, who visited Osama bin Laden's house before that played out, and it would cause some distrust. And they have banned house-to-house vaccinations. They don't want people going to their doors. But that's we've got to get beyond that. We have people that work for the Taliban, not Rotarians. I don't meet with them, but that is a hurdle right now, and we have people actively working on that. And we need to focus like a laser on not only opening up the Taliban, but all of the parents in all those areas. Part of that whole issue there is we need to have them feel that it's their program, not that it's one that Rotary or WHO or UNICEF or the national governments bring in. They need to know that the vaccine is right for their children. And that's why the social mobilization is important. It's why the approach to having community-based vaccinate is important. And, and it's, we're going to eradicate polio, but that's it. In this picture, I always hesitate to use pictures that have me in them, but, the pictures that get taken, and, I don't use the stock pictures. Look at this woman. Forget me. Look at this woman. Look at that smile. This was in Abuja when I was there in 2017. And we went to this health center, connected with a hospital. And she came in late and she was all apologetic. She had just gone back to work. She had just had the baby a little bit ago, and she had to run out of work, go get the baby, come in. And she said, I really want to get my kid vaccinated. So we get the vials back out of the refrigerator and I put the drops in, and you just look at that smile. That's, if every mother was like this mother, so appreciative of the program, wanting to have the vaccine, we would end polio tomorrow. So, there is a bright future ahead. We've gone from, 350,000 cases a year to 130 right now. We've had 5 straight years with 200 or fewer cases. Rotarians have continued to be generous in this COVID experience. The governments have continued to support. There is an issue with the WHO and US government, but, they've already created one exemption for polio. We hope, that will happen regardless of the next administration. But, in the end, it was Rotarians who began this. We've had the patience, we've had the persistence, and, so many Rotarians have the passion. And, when, Jeff introduced me and said, I was, the leader and all that stuff, there are so many leaders in polio eradication and Rotary. Every district, so many clubs. I have one of the easiest jobs in Rotary because everyone identifies with this program, or at least so many do. So I want to thank you. It's a great honor to speak to all of you today and to share with you how we're all working together to eradicate polio. So thank you. Couldn't be more honored to participate with you in World Polio Day. So thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Governor Rich.
Thanks very much, Mike. One of the things that's always great when you invite a speaker is to under-promise and have your speaker over-deliver, and you clearly did that this morning. The most important thing that I saw over and over in the chat was, you're just inspiring, Mike. You're providing the leadership. We realize that there are many Rotarians and non-Rotarians around the world that are doing the heavy lifting, but it's not without your leadership. I also want to remind you that we just announced today that we were #2 in Zone 34 for our commitment to polio, and we raised almost $300,000 this past year toward polio. Mike, if possible, you and I can talk separately, but a number of people asked if you might make your slides available because there was so much really great information on those slides. And just one final question that I got from people in the chat. Are you concerned because of the vaccine deniers, because of issues with COVID, that polio could reappear in the Americas?
It's funny that you should ask that. I actually read an article in the last day or so, someone indicating this support. Anything's possible. As we saw from, the pandemic, we've always said polio is just a plane ride away. And, I think we've learned that the hard way with the pandemic. It's possible. In the United States, for instance, we don't do the oral polio vaccine. The only polio vaccines that are given are IPV, the injectable polio vaccine, and children in most states are required to, get those vaccines prior to going to school. Some states don't require that. In my own state of Maine, we actually just had a vote on the ballot. I don't know if it was early this year or last November, and I couldn't be any more pleased. So people wanted the right for an exemption. And in my own community, Cape Elizabeth, 88% of the people voted not to allow exemptions. And, I know there are feelings out there, but, it's a public health issue. And, it could happen. we need to be vigilant. We need to, make sure we continue our routine immunization programs to not only avoid polio, but also the possibility of all these other vaccine preventable diseases.
Again, Mike, thank you for sharing World Polio Day with us.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you. I'm going to sign off, so good to be with you.